Hey, welcome back to your Daily with Crystal. We are once again in the Run Your Race 365-day devotional. We are on day 15, Game of Thrones. I've never seen an episode, just so you know. Game of Thrones or King of Thrones. I'm going to be ostracized for this, but what are you allowing into your life? I've never seen an episode of it, and I hear it's pretty popular, but I also know there's a ton of gratuitous nudity and sexual scenes. Now, I'm not telling you that you cannot watch this, nor am I picking on you or shaming you if you do. It just happens to be the flavor of the month. I'm telling you that you're putting something into your spirit and it's not benign. Men most often struggle with lust, and shows like these produce lustful thoughts and images. I have 2 men living under my roof, and I want to protect what they see as much as it depends on me. I don't watch scary movies because it can produce fear in me, and I struggled with fear far too long in my life. These things are not benign. They open a crack for the enemy. Where's wisdom? You're free to choose what you see and hear, but there are consequences for your choices. We will all reap whatever seeds we sow. What seeds are you sowing into your body, into your mind, through your eyes? What seeds are you sowing into your family or your church? Would you watch that show if Jesus were sitting in the room with you? Or would you be embarrassed? Guess what? He is in the room with you, and he does care what you watch and what you give your attention to. Psalm 101, verses 2 through 4 says, I will behave wisely in a perfect way. Oh, when will you come to me? I will walk within my house with a perfect heart. I will set nothing wicked before my eyes. I hate the work of those who fall away. It shall not cling to me. A perverse heart shall depart from me, and I will not know wickedness. So, and I've said these things to people before. What you watch, what you pay attention to, what you listen to, none of these things are benign. They're not. They're going to affect you because what we take in to our spirit affects us. And I shared a little bit with this, but I'll share more. I struggled with a spirit of fear for far too long in my life. And and I remember one time I was really crying out to the Lord, and I said, Lord, why am I still struggling with this fear? I don't want it. I know it's crippling. I'm not walking in perfect love. I'm talking to the Lord about all these things, and the Lord just spoke really very clearly to me. And it was, Crystal, you continually are watching this stuff. I was watching scary movies. I've always been attracted to scary movies. Before Christ, I would read Stephen King all the time. So I've always been attracted to that kind of stuff. I like mysteries. I like forensic files. And anything about forensic files, let's just take that one, okay? Because you say, well, scary movies, murder, you should be watching that. And I get that. I don't watch anything with demonic things, because I don't like that at all. So I thought I was okay watching other stuff, even though I'm not watching, the poltergeist, demonic things. And so forensic files, I love watching it. I like mysteries. My mind has always worked that way. I would have been a great cop. I would have been a good lawyer. There's a lot of things that I know I would have been good at. I like the DNA evidence. I like research. I like that investigative work. I like solving a mystery. I like putting puzzles together like that. And so it always appealed to me. And so I'd watch Forensic Files. And there was one night I watched an episode and I was so disturbed by it. I had such horrible dreams that night. And that was the time when the Lord spoke to me. And he said, Crystal, you're struggling with spirit fear because you keep letting this spirit back in. So the Game of Thrones, I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. This book's a couple years old. I don't even know if people still watch that. I don't even know if it's still a show around. But I remember when Game of Thrones was very popular, and I didn't watch an episode, but I went and I wanted to see what this was about, because I'm like, man, everybody's watching this. It's all over Facebook and people are talking about it. And what I found out is that there was a lot of sex in it. There's a lot of it. And I was like, well, why are all these Christians watching this? Why would you watch that? And I remember saying something to a Christian before. They were watching something and I said, you really shouldn't be watching that. And they just bit my head off. They said, I can watch whatever I want to watch. You can't tell me what to do. And I said, well, you're right. I can't tell you what to do. God can't even tell you what to do. You've shown him you're going to do what you want to do. So these things affect us. And for men and women, honestly, a lot of women struggle with sexuality, and they struggle, with maybe looking a certain way, or maybe they have a past with sex, and so they still struggle with that, with fornication. And you watch things like that, and it produces feelings in you. It produces scenes in your mind. You will look at people differently. That is, I don't know if I've shared on one of these dailies before, but I remember I read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. So Dr. Gray wrote these books years ago. Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and then Mars and Venus in the Bedroom. And I remember reading both of these books, and I read Mars and Venus in the Bedroom. And this man, Dr. Gray, he has counseled hundreds of couples, hundreds and hundreds of couples. Been doing it for a long time. And so over the course of his time, you start putting things together of like, this is a common thing in marriages, right? And so he had this couple, this man and this woman, and they wanted a divorce. Well, she wanted to divorce him. And this man, but he was not that good looking. He was overweight. He was missing a tooth. He worked at a very manual labor job. And so, he came home smelling bad, and, he just looked rough. And his wife was complaining about him, all this sort of stuff. Well, come to find out, she sat at home all day long, watching soap operas and reading romance novels. And she built up in her mind what a husband is supposed to look like. She built up in her mind what a man is supposed to look like. Now, we all know romance novels, and soap operas. None of that. That's not real life. That's somebody's imagination. That is not real life. And it puts these views in your head. And so she was looking at her husband with this missing tooth and overweight potbelly and coming home smelling, pretty funky. And she was looking at him going, he ain't supposed to look like that. And she built up this thing in her mind of what he needed to look like, what he's supposed to look like. And she built all these resentment and animosity towards him and bitterness towards him. And so the Dr. Gray was able to uncover it, and praise God, they were able to work things out. And, they saved it, he helped save their marriage. So it ended up good. But it's always stuck with me of, we can get these views, right? As a wife, I'm watching something, I'm like, oh, how come my husband doesn't look like that? How come he doesn't do things like that? Right? And men do the same thing. And honestly, men, if you're watching this, men, the media, the society, and what a woman is supposed to look like, it is hard on us women. It is hard because we are supposed to look a certain way. We're not allowed to age. We're not allowed to get wrinkles. We're not allowed to have gray hair. We're not allowed, every Instagram photo has filters. Every magazine cover, it has been airbrushed. So the pictures that we see isn't, now with AI, even think about that, it's not even reality. So a man that's watching these things and not guarding his eyes for his wife is beginning to think, well, my wife's not supposed to look like that. How come she doesn't look like this woman? Well, that woman is a mirage. She don't really look like that. I can tell you, I have a bunch of friends that their Facebook photos look nothing like them. I'm like, you don't even look like that. You don't even look like that. You got so many filters and eyelashes and, right, all this sort of stuff. I'm like, you don't even look like that in person. Resembles you, but it's not you. So we have to be very, very careful of the things that we are watching, the things that we are letting in, what we're letting into our eyes. Think about this, what you're letting into your ears, the things that we're listening to, the music that we're listening to. I still have song lyrics in my head from like junior high and high school of songs that I wish I never would have listened to. And I don't like it because something will trigger that response, and I'll get those lyrics in my head, and I'm like, no, that's ungodly. I don't think like that. I don't want that in my head anymore. I don't want to be that. I'm a new creation in Jesus Christ. I want my thoughts to be pure. I want them to be right and good and true, and I want my eyes to be only for my husband, and I want my worship to be only for my Lord, right? So these things, guys, what you're watching, what you're listening to, it's not benign. It will affect you. It will affect your family, right? Husband and wife. I just talked about marriage. It can affect your children. It can affect your church. So think about these things. What are you letting into your eyes? What are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you reading? What are you reading, right? As the psalmist says, I will walk wisely. I will behave myself and walk within my house with a perfect heart. That means I have to guard it with everything in me. So that's my word for today. I hope you guys got something out of that. Be sure to send me a message, like or comment, and thanks for joining me. See you next time.